Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's your girl, Nikki Buchanan of Soul Things Botanica, and you are here on another episode of How to Be Magical. And today we have a very fabulous, very special guest. My girl, Rish De Terra, Larisha Stone, aka Nine Minds Radio, aka the curator of the Annual Hoodoo Conference. Rish is a good friend of mine. She's somebody who I consider to be a very integral part of our community, especially when we talk about reclaiming our ancestral roots, documenting our elders, and just being good stewards of the community. So this episode is called The Art of Remembering, and I would like to introduce my guest, Rish. How are you doing tonight, Rish?
I'm feeling good. Thank you for asking. Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, we got to have you on. How many years has it been? Since you started doing the annual Hoodoo conference. I feel like
This year, had it happened this year, would have been the 5th year
wow.
that it happened. My goal was to have it in person this year. But that didn't pan out the way I wanted it to. If I had it in person this year, it would probably be a small gathering. Because the time is so, short, I didn't promote it or advertise it or even put it out in enough time. So next year we'll do it. I'll do it at New Year's like I always do, just to bring it back, and then put out something larger for the summer, or
Okay.
maybe spring solstice or spring equinox rather, for next year.
Okay. No, I feel like the Hoodoo conference has been like a nice grounding um fixture in the community to kind of get people ending the year one way, starting the year a new way. Um, and you describe yourself as a cultural memory keeper, right? So what does that mean to you? What does that role mean?
Ooh. Um First of all, I never described myself as that. That's something that people have described me as. And I think it's important to note that when you do the work, of course, you know who you are and you know the importance of what you're doing, but you don't come into it with the intention or the idea that your recognition is going to come from um, your arrogance, right? You can't be arrogant when you're doing this work. There's no space for it because it's not about you. Being a cultural memory keeper to me is about being connected to the ancestors so that you know what to do, what to say, how to say it, and who to say it to. I think too many of us get caught up on, um, you know, making sure everybody knows what's important to us and what's important for us, and we lose the mission when we work too hard to make ourselves. Uh, we want to be understood so bad, by we want to stop being othered by others. And, I think a part of being a cultural memory keeper is doing the work to release the need to explain yourself to people outside your culture, and just embrace it and embody it, live it, be it, do it, feel it. You have to be a knower of who you are and where you come from and who you come from. So, yeah.
No, I love what you said about releasing that need to be understood,
Hmm.
because I feel like we do lose a lot of time in trying to make things palatable, make things, easy to digest, make things, under like it just takes up a lot of our time.
Yes.
And you're not even reaching the audience or the people that you're supposed to reach, because in trying to be so understood by all, you miss out on connecting with the people that you really supposed to connect with,
Exactly.
you know. Um, but before you did the Hoodoo conference, before were doing all of that, you had created the Nine Minds radio show. So
Yeah.
what inspired you to create Nine Minds?
Ooh, girl, girl, girl. I was in 2012. I had moved into my own apartment. Um, and I was living by myself in a little one bedroom, a little cute one bedroom, just enough space for me in it. And I started searching. I said, all right, okay, I left the mosque. I left the Nation of Islam a couple of years prior. And I said that's not for me. As I dissected all the things I was taught and the things that were given to me, I was like, this don't fit no more. I don't think I want to worship a man who was half white. I don't think I want to worship a man at all. I don't think that uh a lot of things that I was taught, a lot of things that I was taught to believe. I said, I don't really believe that. I don't know what I believe, so let me start looking. And I said, I know that I believe that um the people who came before me had the right idea. I do know I believe that. I believe that they had they post to Earth Mother. I do know that. I know I believe in Earth Mother. And I want to find out what the people who believe in Earth Mother believed. So I started researching. And I started getting into things and I started taking space for myself, meditating, watching my thoughts come and go. And I started having these weird experiences that I couldn't really talk to much people about. Energies and entities that I would see in my space or in my mind's eye. And a friend of mine was like, I told him about it, and he was like, "You need to talk to Mama Jean." And Mama Jean was a priestess of Oshun out of Texas, and Mama Jean Taiwo, and she did a divination for me, and she told me that I was a daughter of Yemiya, and that I needed to clean up. That those are the words she used. You need to clean up, sister. You need to reclaim your memory. Nikki, you there?
I'm here.
Okay, you froze up a second. All right. She said you need to reclaim. She said I needed to reclaim my memory. Um, and she told me a prayer to say to help me do it. She said, God, through the power of the Holy Spirit, go back into my memory as I sleep. Heal every hurt that has been done to me. Heal every hurt that I have caused another. If there's any suffering caused by my hand that I am not aware of, please bring it to my awareness. I choose to forgive and I ask to be forgiven. Ashe. And so she had me say that prayer on the phone with her 20 times. And it was so cathartic and it made me release so much weight that I had on me from all those years of negative programming, conditioning. This is a woman's place. This is what a woman is supposed to do. This is, your submission to a man is a given because you're a woman and that's what women do. And, you know, this is how you're supposed to live and how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to mother. And I was ready to reject all of it. And that one prayer, all those times, was the beginning of me being able to release it with ease, right? Um, and so my sister-in-law had given me this book called Jambalaya by Yeye Louisa Tace. You know the book. We all know the book.
My mom had that book.
Uh, it was a bookstore I grew up in Newport News, Virginia, UB&US Books and Things. And so I was reading through that book and I said, this looks like what I want. This looks like what I need. And so I'm really dragging the story out and I don't know why. So I'll go ahead and I'll cut to the chase. At the time in 2012, the HBIC in the Hoodoo game was the owner of a company called Lucky Mojo. And I know we all know good old Lucky Mojo, right? And so I went on the website and that's where all the people I knew who practiced ordered from. And by all the people, I only had one person I knew, and that was my sister-in-law. And it was every time I went to the house, it was Lucky Mojo stuff everywhere. And I'm like, what is that? So she would explain different things to me, and I'm like, oh, okay, excuse me. So I went on the website and I joined the message board, and I saw the owner. I seen the owner, her with a green light lit up next to her name, Cat Ironwood, right? And so I messaged her and I said, "Hey, sorry to bother you. Um, do you have any book recommendations about or on hoodoo by Black practitioners written before 1920?" Because she had the free copies you could download of the Hyatt's compilation books, the several volumes of those you could just download for free, right? And so I said, okay. And I had read through a lot of that stuff, and I said, some of this seems, it don't feel real all the way. It don't. I want to know. And then I found out Harry Hyatt was a white man, and I'm like, they wasn't giving him the real deal. They was just saying stuff. I need to find the books by the Black authors. And so I reached out, asked her, "Do you know any books?" She was like, "What do you want that for?" I was like, "What do I want? First of all, bitch, what do I want? Because I want
First
it.
of all, why are you talking to me like that?
What? Who you think you?
Who are you talking to?
That it started off real iffy. I said because I know that, and it's this just my research. Um, I hadn't found Dr. Sharo's book yet, where she talks about the commodification of hoodoo, or Mama Katrina Donald's book where she talks about the commodification of hoodoo in her book. I hadn't found these books. I saw Cat Ironwood. I saw Harry Hyatt. I saw that people started selling stuff, like a lot of stuff. A lot of people outside the culture started selling stuff in like the 1920s. Um, as I'm looking through all this, I'm compiling my own. I'm coming to my own conclusions, and um, I'm looking for Mama Katrina, and I'm looking for um Dr. Shiro. I'm looking for them. And I didn't know. I Googled it and not much was coming up. And so she says to me after I asked her that question, and she was like, "Why you want that for?" And I said, "Because that's around the time it got commodified, and I'd like to know what it was about before other outsiders started to take it and make money off of it." And at this time, I didn't know she was a white woman. Um, I thought she was a Black woman. And so her responses were taking me aback, but I was trying to be respectful because I thought she was one of us. I thought she was my sister. I thought she was my mama. And she says to me, while you were studying Black liberation theology and joining the Nation of Islam and the Moorish Science Temple, I was at the feet of your grandmothers, learning it. And so it's mine. In so many words, is what she said. That and so it's mine, I might have added, but that's how it felt. What she
Well,
said,
might as well. She might as well. Shit, the hell.
I had it said, so it's mine, bitch. And then I'm taking it and you can't do nothing about it. I said, oh, word? What can I do? So on my brain, the fire in me, it was just brewing, brewing, brewing. I said, oh, I hate this. What can I do to what can I do to hurt her? What can I do to really fuck her up from like a very foundational level? And so my children's father at the time, we were, cohabitating. He said, why don't you start a podcast? I said, He said, yeah, you got the voice for it. Just start a podcast. And, you tell the real story. You've been doing your research. You've been studying. Tell the real story. I said, okay. So I go back to the computer and I start using all types of keywords, search words, hoodoo Black authors, hoodoo conjure root work, uh, 2020, what was it, 2014 at the time. So 2012, I'm having all these experiences. I'm introduced to hoodoo. 2013, I meet my children's father. I get pregnant. 2014, I'm pregnant with my daughter. I have her. And while I'm pregnant with her is when this interaction with Cat Ironwood happened, right? And if you've ever met my daughter, she is a quiet storm. She's one of them. That energy that I had while I was pregnant with her, that like calculating, what can I do to twist your shit around? That's Pasha, right? She has that energy very strong in her, and you got to really push her buttons to get it, but it's in her. And I'm pretty sure that interaction and the energy I carried during that pregnancy had a lot. Anyway, let me keep going. Um, I started a series called Conjure Culture Demystified. And in it, I talked about and it went viral. It was watched by hundreds of thousands of people, and that's how I got connected on Facebook with the Witches Brew, which was Daisy October Latifah's Facebook group. And when I joined that group, she had shared she or someone in the group had shared the series already. And I think that's how, in one of the ways that it went viral, a lot of people saw it in there. And I joined the group, and we had a collective hatred, disgust, and disdain for this woman who felt like she could lay claim to our shit. Just because we would sleep for a little while don't mean that that's yours, right? Just because, we didn't understand because we weren't exposed as much doesn't mean that it's yours. It means that we're here to reclaim it. And so what we all started doing, me, Daisy, Gerard Miller, um, you, um, who else? Who else? A bunch of us. We all started saying, why don't we make our own shit? Let's make our own products. Let's share what we make with each other. Let's sell it to each other. Let's make each other, some coin off of this. Let's take it away from her. We're going to take it away from her. So our collective juju was just the decision to start making our own stuff, encouraging everybody to make their own stuff, and we going to sell it to each other. And we not buying nothing else from her. We started a community-wide boycott of Cat Ironwood,
Sure
and
did.
and everybody started buying from each other. We didn't. I don't see no Lucky Mojo nowhere.
I ain't
No,
heard that name in a long time,
a
honestly.
long
Long
time.
time.
We see we see stuff with no labels, stuff with corny labels, stuff with basic labels, stuff with elaborate labels, and it's all our shit. And it's potent and it's powerful and it's ours. And that was the important thing to me about that connection with all of us early on. It's about what, like 10 years ago now.
Yeah, well over 10 years now that I'm
Yeah.
as you telling the story, I'm like, damn, it's been that long. But I'm thinking
Been
about it, I'm like, no, it's been that long, like
want to cry, it choked me up a little bit.
nah,
Like,
it's that's why it's like nah, that's why I had to have you on because I'm like, no, this is important. Like there are so many things that have come out of our this I
yeah,
want to call it like a renaissance.
yeah,
This has like truly been like a spiritual renaissance because everybody has branched off into their respective corners, which is
hmm
what needed to happen, which is honestly, I think sometimes as black people, sometimes we over romanticize how things was back home. Like we want to just forget that we was tribal back home. People
yeah.
wasn't just black people like that.
Right.
We didn't become black until we got over here.
Thank you.
Like
Exactly. We was Fulani. We was Igbo. We was, you know what I'm saying? We had our groups.
Fong, Yoruba,
Thank you.
Congo.
Mhm.
We was different people.
Right.
Dahomey, we was different people. And it's like I think that sometimes people forget that, when they want to be like, oh, we all supposed to unite. It's like to a certain degree, okay?
Yeah.
It is
Mhm.
healthy for us to be in our respective lanes within our blood and within our lineages.
Right.
Like, yeah, we got over here, we got a lot of stuff all crossed and mixed up. But for the most part, some of us hoodoo was a way for a lot of people. Some people are gonna be just hoodoo down from
Mhm.
from just for forever. Like they may never have to go and pursue other things. But for a lot of us, hoodoo was the way of us reconnecting to all of the things in our bloodline.
Yes. And I think that it's important to say that because while we're branching off, we starting to have a lot of dissension in those branches. I don't see it as much as I used to. It was like a short period of a very short period of time where you had people who were identifying are people who identify as ADOS, American descendants of slavery, who wouldn't teach hoodoo to people who were initiated into Yoruba or Candomblé or any of the other ATRs. If you was initiated into another ATR, it was some teachers who wouldn't even mess with you because you didn't you felt like hoodoo. They said you felt like hoodoo wasn't enough. And it's like, no, that's not the case. It's not that hoodoo is all we got. Hoodoo is everything for us. It's our blood. It's our bones. It's who we are. But like you said, our way of connecting with our past further back, there's nothing wrong with doing that, right? I know that my ancestors are the phone people, right? And I know that my family came through the Middle Passage through Barbados, right? That they came through South Carolina and North Carolina. And on this side of the water, they are Chickasaw, right? I know my lineages. And at some point, I'm going to get into my Chickasaw lineage too, right? I'm going to find out what that spirit science is as well. So, what if I'm not on a scroll? I don't need to be on a scroll. It's in my blood, right? It's in my blood. It don't need to be on paper. So, you know, part again, going back to the memory keeper aspect, a part of that is knowing your bloodline, right? Doing the research and not just genealogy, but getting the divination, right? People, I don't think that Western methods are the most effective for all things. I don't think I need to go to ancestry. My grandmother did, so that's how I know some of the things. But even that's iffy, right? Because those borders weren't borders before,
Exactly.
right? Those borders they crossed and mixed, and you had people who was here and here to here. So while my ancestors are from Togo and Ghana is right there, my grandmother's ancestry in me says Ghana ancestry. My divination says Togo. That we practice Vodun, right? So when I go deeper into my lineage, while I'm initiated into Ifa, I'm going to study the deities that my ancestors who practice Vodun worshipped and prayed not prayed to and edified and revered. They were forest spirits. That's why I love being in the woods. Yes, I'm a daughter of Yemaya, but I'm also a forest girl. The deity that has my soul, right? The deity that came through my bloodline is the forest deities. So, it's important to go back and get those stories that are shared through the priestesses and priests that you trust. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and yeah, like we saying, it's not. I don't think I wrote a post recently where I said that hoodoo was our ancestors reverse engineering
Mm-hmm.
millennia of
Thank you.
spiritual and religious science, right? Like they literally were just like, okay, this is what I can remember, and then putting it back together. That doesn't that I think that sometimes people get, like you said, they get very centered on the interruption.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery was our interruption. It was not our origin, right?
Yeah.
So we have to go beyond that. Before, we had to reverse engineer and
Mm.
create a whole practice, not from scratch, literally from memory.
Thank
From
you.
It wasn't from scratch. It wasn't like they had something. They had to figure out new plants. They had to figure out new animals. They had to figure out new locations. All of these things that they had to figure out, they were reverse engineering something that already existed.
Yes.
So that's why we have to go back to those ancestral practices as well. We got to honor those. We
Yes.
honor hoodoo when we do hoodoo. We honoring the recent ancestors.
Yes.
When we talking about recent is like the last 500 years. That's recent if you're talking about
Yeah.
human history. But
Mm.
beyond 500 years, some of us got ancestors that's walking with us. That's from 1,000 years ago.
Some of us have ancestors who are walking with us that are non-human. We have sounds. We have music walking with us all the time. We are all here because of sound, and we're here because of sound, and we're here because of light. Right? Those are the things that make matter. Right? And and that's I'll be in the clouds. I go all the way over there. I
No,
use
no,
my
let's go there.
like when you think about human history and how there were entities and energies that made it possible for us to be here, right? With their DNA as well, right? Mixed with sound, mixed with vibration, right? Um it goes even further than ATR, right? It's energy, right? It's vibration, it's energy. And those are things that we pick up along the way. And those are the essences of religion, of practice, of tradition. Had we never known what hoodoo was, we all would have connected anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Just off of that alone. Just off of the fact that you was seeing shit too. You was hearing shit too. And we would have been diagnosed as schizophrenic had we told, our school counselors what we were seeing, hearing, and feeling. But we found each other, right? And
Right.
so in that way, the energies, the ancestors, those spirits, they chose us, right? And it's important to know that, and it's a great responsibility that we have. And you got me wanting to come out of hiatus. I know I've been missing for a while, but I'm ready to come back and pick up where I left off.
Oh, you know how it is. Listen, it's you got your periods where this is human. This is nature, right?
Yeah.
Nothing
Mm-hmm.
nothing grows year round on Earth. Okay, you
Yeah.
got cycles of dormancy and you got cycles of fruition and all of that stuff. So I
Mhm.
think that that's just it is what it is. It's not a matter of you know um keeping some arbitrary timetable. It's a matter of sometimes you need a little bit of a little space for things to grow and ferment and have a place to like take root, and then out of the darkness you be like, oh my gosh, everything just come back to you, because I go through the same thing. Truly,
Mhm.
I be like, I haven't done anything in a while or whatever, but I think,
Mhm.
and even honoring that, like you just said, if we was if we were to go and tell counselor, tell a doctor, tell whoever, they will diagnose you with something. I'm diagnosed, right? I check myself into Bellevue. I tell people that all the time. Like, it was my first and only time in an involuntary psych hold. I never went back. I didn't realize it was that time. 10 days was all it took for me to be like, you know what? I'm not crazy. Actually, I'm
Right.
actually not crazy. I'm just
Right.
wired differently, and now they have all of these terms for neurodivergence and all of these things, right? When actually it's like, no, we've always had a place for neurodivergence. I'm gonna share this link with you when we get
Okay.
off of someone on Substack. I'm her name is escaping me, but I'm gonna put the link in the description and in the show notes, where she did a great piece on Substack this week talking about how Africans always understood neurodivergence.
Right.
We understood there's some people that are the griot who are going to remember everything, right?
Right.
We
Right.
call that hyperfocus and autistic X, Y, and Z, but we already had a place for people who were where their focus was so intent that that's all they could do. People that had a gift of music, people that had a gift of motion, people and and understanding that our brain chemistry and our neuroscience is different, right?
Right.
And then even when we understand about mediumship and how certain dreams and how certain gifts are passed down and hereditary, like it's honestly hereditary,
Yeah.
like
Thank you. I
it's
was just
hereditary. So like the same way how like even my therapist was like, if you had any anxiety or whatever, you inherited it, like and I'm just like, yeah, the old heads didn't have words like anxiety. Bitch, I'm gonna be honest with you, I ain't know what anxiety was until like 5 years ago. I'm reading the symptoms and I'm like, hold on, is this play
yeah.
about me? Wait a minute, because I thought this was just my natural set point. I didn't know that this was called anxiety. I thought that this was I, that's what anxiety is this whole time, my whole life. I ain't never knew. And then I finally looked it up and I was like, oh,
Girl.
interesting. But if we go back to our ancestral practices and we look at ourselves through that lens, we realize, oh, we've always been these people.
Thank
I'm
you.
I'm an ancestor that existed 300 years ago, that existed 1,000 years ago, that existed. I'm the reincarnation of many, many people in my bloodline.
Mhm.
I'm not so unique, except in this context and in this world, I'm being treated differently because this world is not framed with us and with people like me or like you in mind. It's saying if we don't fit this thing, something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And we already know that that's not true. Now things are being more, it's being more acceptable to be a little quirky, a little offbeat. But for a lot of us, a lot of our ancestors did not have that freedom to
No.
truly be themselves and exist,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So the way that we just talked about how this Renaissance happened. So yeah, I was there. I was part of the Renaissance. I was in the mix. I was like, wow, all of these. I love history. I'm a history buff. I'm a history buff down. The
Hmm.
Renaissance that when we want to give all due respect and all love and all light to Daisy October Latifah,
Yes.
okay, for the Witch's Brew, for
Hmm.
really creating a incubator for people
Yes.
to come together, to learn, to grow, to decolonize, and to spread. She created a space. She has had, um, she fought tooth and nail to keep it black.
Yep.
People was fighting her. People was fighting
Yep.
about it. She did not care. She stood 10 toes down on everything that she believed in, everything that she said. Um, and I was in the group for quite some time,
Hmm.
and I do know that out of that group, the Annual Hoodoo Conference was born. Right,
Hmm.
a lot of minds that were in that group, and a lot of thought leaders, and a lot of practicing spiritualists and priests, authors, doctors.
Met there. That's where we met.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
since, like you said, it's been 5 years since doing the conference. What
Mhm.
is something that you've learned about yourself since the beginning of hosting the conference?
That's a, that's a heavy question. I've been through so much since that first conference. That first conference, um, it was a virtual event that Daisy put on. It was a fundraiser for domestic violence survivors. And the proceeds from that were going to her Blitch fund so that she could gift a woman who was escaping domestic abuse those funds. And I said, you know what? This is a great idea. She did like a virtual fundraiser. I could probably, because COVID had hit, I said I could probably do a virtual conference. And so I started mapping it out and organizing it and putting it together. And the first thing I learned was that I'm much more organized in my thought when I'm doing something that I want to do. Because I have a reputation amongst my friends and family for being very scatterbrained. Very all over the place, very lofty and aloof, and you know, I'm thinking up here instead of being grounded in reality. And I say, you know what, I could put this together. This is something I could freak this. I got a million ideas for how to make this dope. And the first one, I think I had a belly dance instructor so that we could ground ourselves through movement. And then all of the topics, it was the first one was all of them were about getting off the time loop.
Yep, I
Right?
remember.
You remember?
Creating a new time loop.
Creating a new time loop because we stuck in one that we can't seem to get out of. And the whole message was you have to do something drastic that you've never done before, that you've been afraid to do if you want to get off the time loop. And so, um, doing drastic, scary things outside of my normal belief system or way of doing things is always very scary to me. But through doing those conferences, I learned that I can do hard things. I can do uncomfortable things, and great reward is on the other side of me deciding to do a hard thing that I'm uncomfortable doing, but I know it's going to be beneficial to me and my children if I do it, you know. So, yeah,
I
I
love
think,
that. I
thank
love
you.
that. Yeah, that first conference was, again, it was COVID. We were stuck in the house, but it was
Mhm.
so transformative. Like, you brought so many
Yeah.
people together. And I like
Yeah.
that you ended answering that question, talking about your children, because that's what the next question is about. Um,
Mm.
because personally, some of my first protective works that I remember learning, I learned them as a child from my grandmother, right? Now, my grandmother didn't call it hoodoo, right?
Mm-mm.
She didn't call it anything. She just was like, "We gonna do this thing, right?
Mhm. This is what we do, and that's all it.
And you gonna do what this is what I'm gonna tell you to do, you're gonna do it. And you're gonna believe that it works." And there was a few things that my grandmother used to do. That I realized, like, maybe her grandmother didn't say it was hoodoo, but that's what it was, you know. But and my grandmother taught it to me, and a lot of the first things were always like the first thing was something for protection because I was getting picked on, and I was
Mm-hmm.
feeling some type of way, and I came home from school, and I was really young, maybe I was like 8 or 9, and my grandmother was like, "Oh no, we got something for that," and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you know," it was very excited. I was very excited. I just I just thought it was so cool. I was like, "Oh, okay, you
Right.
know, all right, what we doing?" And my grandmother was like, "Go get this, go get that, go get okay." And we did a whole little thing.
Mhm.
So what's a protective practice that you teach your kids that you know other parents that are listening? They're like, listen, I feel like we always have to remember that hoodoo was born out of survival. That wasn't the only function, but
Right.
that was a primary function for the time, right? We
Mhm.
we don't live in times where it's as serious as it like we gotta think about how serious it was when people was really
Yeah.
like I gotta figure out how to work a root. Like
Mhm.
they was under the real threat, but you still have threats. You
Yeah.
got kids, you know, you still worry about their safety. You still worry about them going out in the world. You worry about them engaging with other children safely, other authority figures in school. You're not there. So what is something that you think that you feel comfortable sharing with other
Sure.
parents?
I'm gonna tell you, it honestly boils down to a couple of things. For me with my children. Um, be yourself, be loud about it, and be strong and firm about it, and don't give a fuck what nobody think. That's the first protection that I instill in them every day, and fight hard for what you believe in and for what you know is right. Don't let nobody tell you that the sky is green when you know that it's blue, right? Um, and don't be nobody's fool, right? You are the smartest one in the room. There are other intelligent people around you, but you have to be steps ahead. Um, we're not into I haven't give well my daughter, she studies everything I do. If she sees me mixing something, she's Mommy, what you doing? Nothing, baby. Just putting together a little something. Da, 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 da. Oh, can I see? Can I help you? Sure, baby. Go get the black walnut hull powder. Give me the salt. Give me the this. What's it for? It's to protect our family. This is what they get in their everyday living. But to instill the juice to help it ferment in them the way that it needs to for their balance and their wellness, because in varying degrees it's different for every kid, every child. You can't tell them. I can't tell my daughter to tell somebody shut the fuck up, right? Sonny can't wait to tell somebody shut the fuck up. My daughter, she's not saying it. She just gonna look at you like you crazy and go on about her business. That's her way of saying it. But the point is, both of them are unafraid to be themselves, and that's because as they're growing up, I am hands off when it comes to how you need to be or how you should do things. They don't have home training, not in the traditional sense that children have it. You know, when we go to people's houses, sometimes I have to remind my son to sit down and relax because he's going to jump on things and he's going to ask you questions and he's going to roam. He's going to open doors. No, baby, sit down for now. When we get home, you can do all of this. But at, they know how to code switch in that way, in other people's spaces. Um, but authenticity to me is that foundation for raising secure, protected children. And they know if anybody tries to snatch them to, take their thumbs and dig them into their eyeballs. Things, protection, things, physical protection, spiritual protection, mental protection. I try to keep it all covered. Um, but not in a way that it's not regimented. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We just this is what we do. If you see me in my mix, you join in and you help out and you learn.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we've talked before about black people moving into back to our communal living, you know,
Mhm.
for our safety, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, how would you say how would you interpret hoodoo reinforcing the idea of community as protection?
Mm. Excuse me. I think you gotta. First of all, we're all doing something. What popped into my head when you said that was Mama Roo. You remember Mama Roo?
Yes.
Um, Mama Roo is the I would call her the matriarch of New Era Chicago, right? New Era Chicago is an organization that does neighborhood patrols. They do food distribution, all types of very amazing, dope programs in community. And Mama Roo is their priestess. Essentially, she makes sure everyone has the protection that they need as they go forth to do the work that they do. Um, some of us have to stand up and decide that we're gonna be that. We're gonna be Mama Roo for the young people who are out here doing patrols in community, whether that be actually patrolling community or doing work in community, doing work for community. What are we doing to protect the people who look up to us and whose care we need to take, right? Um, all of us have a hoodoo house. If we have family, if we have blood relatives who come to us for readings, if they come to us for advice, if they ask us questions about X, Y, and Z, we all have hoodoo houses that we're all priestesses of. I think it's time for us to go ahead and step into that. And embody that energy, clean up as Mama Jean said, so we can do right for the people in our care.
No, absolutely. I think that we have to think about, okay, things come in waves, right? And in stages. So a lot of us got called, right? A lot of us got called, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us answered the call. Some people, many people get called, or not everybody answer the call. Some people they hear it and they like, I'm gonna go about my business. I don't really want to do that right now. That's sound like a lot of
Right.
work. I don't want to do that. Actually, I want to go turn up. And some of us was like, I'm going, go over here for a second, off in the woods, and sit quietly and listen. And I'm gonna dig through the family archives, and I'm gonna talk to the elders, and I'm gonna talk with people all over the country, and I'm gonna go to this place, and they answered those calls. So now, yeah, a lot of us have answered the call, which is great. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying now we got to move into the next phase of why do we answer the call? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just about acquiring titles and accolades and wearing the outfit and the beads and that's all fine and good. Listen, I love a good outfit. I love a hat. I do. I do. But it's more than that.
Right.
it's, it's more than that. Like, if and again, this is no disrespect. This is no dig at anybody personally, okay? But this is why I say I've been saying this for years. I'm like, we need to bring back community theater, okay? Bring back community theater, bring back the performing arts. Cause some people, you just need to go back to community theater. Really. You wanted to be on stage, you need to put the outfit on, you need to put on the show. I get that. I truly understand that desire. I
Oh,
too,
come watch.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. I get it. But when we talk about like truly answering calls, like you're saying, some of us gonna have to be the ones that's like, yo, I'm willing to commit to the community to do this work in this way. You know, um, one of my previous guests, Honey, she's in Detroit, and
Mhm.
she recently wrote on Substack. She was talking about an old episode of SVU where there was like a street nun. She was like that. She's like that image of that street nun stayed with me for my whole life. Of like somebody that's really committed to they path with God, but they on the street ministering to the people. Like that's where God wants you to be.
Right.
It's very easy for people to get locked up and caught up in, I just want to stay in the house, I just want to study. But at some point, you're going to take that and put it in practice. Are you
Yeah.
really putting it in practice to go out there and help people? Are you making baths for the community? Are you lighting a candle? Are you doing prayers? Are you doing protection works? Are you, and again, it's not to condemn anybody. It's just to kind of ask people, well, what are you willing to do? Like, how can you contribute?
Mhm.
Because that's why they asked us to do these things, And we got people that's looking to us, younger people. Sometimes even some elders is looking to us because they didn't answer the call.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, again, not to condemn nobody, but sometimes
Right.
even my mother asks me certain things, and I'd be like, oh, well, I just do this, that, and the third. She's like, okay. And she go off, and she, and it's just like a lot of, you know, a lot of things when we think about time from an African perspective, it's not linear.
Right.
Everything is in that nice spiral, that little Fibonacci sequence. Everything comes out of that.
Talk
So, some,
about it.
so sometimes the elder and the baby is it's like they be like, sometimes the grandma and the baby, that's real. Like
Yes.
sometimes the grandma is the baby,
Yep. Yep.
sometimes, like sometimes that's just how it goes. And if everybody knows about the Dekenga and the cosmogram, like all of these things are real. Like we can't look at things so straight on and be like, oh, okay, it's just this. It's like,
You're missing all the layers underneath when you look at it head on, because it's the thing is nothing is aligned. Everything is layered and stretches, and it contracts and it stretches again, and then it flips around. As it's flipping around, you flipping too, and it's contracted. And yeah, so yeah, 100%.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this is such a random question, but I love a good random question in the middle. If you could have a conversation with any ancestor, right?
Oh,
Any ancestor, famous or personal, right? Like communal ancestor or personal ancestor, who would it be?
oh. Mm. First person that popped into my head was Queen Nanny. I'm gonna tell you something about the revolutionary mothers. Since I was a little girl, they have inspired me because they represented um power and triumph and strength and killing and hurting and harming enemies. Like that's all shit I used to give me hype when I was a kid. Like when I was little, I used to be an assassin. When I was a little girl, mommy said, "What you want to be when you grow up, Larisha?" I was like, "I want to kill people for a living." I was crazy. Like, I still will do it. If they send me to a camp to get right, I get fit and I'm, running over buildings, jumping across stuff. I'll do it. But like, I'm being extra. But like those women who they wielded the pot and the sword. They had the machete and the root. Those are the women that I see myself as ultimately. Those are the women that I want to study under, right? Those are the ancestors who I call on when I'm practicing my mediumship. When I'm going deeper into my gifts, I'm calling on those women, right? Um, if I could talk to her and with her thick accent and her stern demeanor, and she don't mind my silly folly ways, and she sit there and talk to me, that would I'd probably turn on my hair white. I'd be so happy.
So anybody that listens to this show, you know how I feel about Nanny. I love me some Nanny down. That is my babes. I'm like,
Yes.
Nanny, what?
Mhm.
Yes, I want to know. I want to know.
Yep.
Listen. I got a cousin right now in Jamaica, one of my father's first cousins, who I'm telling everybody. I said, listen, as soon as I get to Jamaica, I'm going straight to her house, and I'm pulling a knife on her like this, like take me to the bush. Take me with you.
Right. Let me go with you. Let's
Take
do
me
it
with you. I'm
together.
old enough now. I want to know. Tell me. I want to know because I can
Tell
only
me.
imagine the
Mhm.
things that Nanny, knew, and like the way I don't know. Just yeah, it is incredible.
Yeah.
That type of presence, and to like command like literal armies, and like to like have divinations and dreams, and like to be that connected with the ancestral and the spirit realm, and to like literally had the British on their toes. Like they had the British running for their life.
Yeah. As I don't know,
Scared.
Rodney Hinton Jr. praise him is doing to these police officers right now. They scared as shit. And I hope more Rodnisha Hintons pop up. Like, and I'm, whatever. I'm not scared, but like, I really, I'm really inspired by him, and I hope that he remains protected throughout his journey, and he has everything he needs, and he feels at peace with his decision, because that's the spirit right there. That's the energy. When I think of Queen Nanny and the men in her command, that's the energy they was coming with, you know.
Exactly. So now that we got our nanny, all right. Tell us about your documentary.
um,
Um, what stories are you most excited about to share with this documentary?
um, I have in my well, okay, so to start off, I've completed episode 1. Um, I have not done any fundraisers for it because I have not been active in community. So I feel a little awkward coming out saying, "Hey, send me some money to get this Apple desktop so I can finish editing episode 1 and episode 2, 3, and 4. Get my camera, da 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 da. So I haven't done anything as far as raising funds, but before the year is out, episode 1 will be the editing will be completed. Episode 2 is fire, and I have several interviews lined up for it already. That one is about resistance, using juju as resistance in 2025 and beyond. Um,
What's the name? What's the name of your documentary?
oh, Conjure, the docuseries. Very simple, very direct to the point. And episode 1, Earth, is about how we are all initiated to Earth by right of birth. So while in ATR and Hoodoo, water represents birth for the whole of humanity, um, I've used Earth as the element because she is our mother. Um, Fire, again, resistance. Air is about what we've been discussing as far as connecting online through the airwaves, um, to take Hoodoo further. So hopefully I'll have an opportunity to interview people like Daisy October Latifah, Nikki Buchanan, Gerard Miller, Joy Tabernacle, Got to be Oshun, Iyalosha Osoyemi Akalatunde. Um, those who have used the digital space as a tool to promote uh returning to our roots, right? Um, Air being representing communication, how we pass information along, um, how our collective memory is shared on these spaces in every post that we make, every event that we put together, every interview we do. We're sharing information um in the unseen and the seen, right? Our
Right.
higher selves are talking to each other right now. They having a party right now. They like word, they getting together, right? Da, 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 da. You see what I'm like? We're interdimensional beings. So air is gonna be all about that, how we're sharing information in digital spaces, and through print spaces as well. And then the last episode is water, and that one is going to be dedicated to and run by the elders.
I think that people are very receptive and
Yeah,
want to support projects like yours, projects like this for us.
yeah,
Um, so I don't, I would please, we're gonna put all of the respective links so that
yeah.
people could send you some funds so that way we can get this ball rolling. Because honestly, like I truly believe in the power of the community. I truly believe in the power of the collective. I believe in when you know how they say when two of us is in the one accord, that's
Mhm.
we still got the spirit in between both of us.
Yeah,
That's we three's a crowd. We good. So I definitely know that you are going to receive the funding that you need to
thank
get the equipment to edit the things that you need. You're gonna make those connections. Everybody that's listening, you listen. Like I said, we have a lot of communal and collective power.
you.
Just in us paying attention to each other, paying attention to each other's ideas, feeding each other, that positive energy, and being like, you know what? No, I do want to see this thing come to fruition.
Yes,
Um, and I'm like I said, I'm very excited to see your vision in
Mhm.
this, and I think that especially now, we're gonna talk about sinners. That's a whole different. we're gonna talk about sinners. That's a whole separate episode, y'all. So if you're listening, okay, that is not, I have not publicized this yet, but there is going to be a full sinners breakdown. So anybody that's listening, by the time of this airing, you're gonna be like, oh snap, really? Because I'm not even posting about it, because I feel like it's gonna be something that we're gonna be talking about sinners for quite some time. So we will be touching on sinners in a different episode. But I do think that movies like Sinners, right, are a result of this renaissance, right? We
Yeah,
can't sit up here and say Dr. Yvonne Chirot was a part of that, but you can't tell me that there wasn't people on the crew who wasn't, who were a part of the production and the planet, who ain't came across one of us in the
thank you.
planet. Like, come on, it just don't make, like,
It
we're
don't make
it don't make sense. They
no.
didn't reference old girl Cat Urinwood,
Oh,
okay?
didn't. Listen,
Okay, so
laughing in the face.
we
I
can
will
laugh. Wait,
say
listen, we go, but this is we don't know what the outcome is of doing this type of work.
right.
We do it the same way how our ancestors had no idea that they were preserving things for us today, right? They didn't know. They was like, we just gonna preserve this because somebody behind me gonna need it.
I want to say something to you about that. Um, and this is something when I was working with Dr. Chirot on episode 1 that we were both floored at the things that are in our memories that we don't even know are ancestral, right? And okay, so there was a summer when I was at my mom's a lot. This is this is probably the summer before the conference. The summer before the conference. Um I was at my in the backyard, and where my parents live, they live in the country. And it's like land that my father grew up on, that my great grandfather and his 4 brothers bought, and they passed it down, right down the generations. And it's this beautiful red clay in the backyard, all over the place. It's red clay everywhere. You dig deep enough, you're gonna come into it, right? And I was out gardening, like making my rows, and I came across a big clump of it, and I grabbed it, dug some of it up, and I went in the house and I started rolling it. I just started rolling a bunch of pieces of it. Nothing said. I had no plans on doing nothing with it. Something just called me to grab it, and I just started rolling it. And I rolled it, and I poked holes in it. And as I'm doing, then this is how it always happens when I'm doing things. Nothing is. I'm not thinking ahead. It's just this right now place saying roll it. Now poke a hole in it. I poked a hole in it, and then I baked it on low for however long I baked it for. And when I took them out, they was hard beads. And then I painted them blue. I painted the beads blue. I had a bunch of paint there. I was painting a lot at the time. That blue behind you with the indigenous um figure on it. That blue right there, most of them was that color blue. Some of them was sky blue. Um but it was between that and sky blue, and I was just mixing white with blue, a little bit of green, and just painting them. And so I was telling Dr. Chirot about this one day, and she said, Larisha, there's a study on blue beads that somebody did because archaeologists kept finding them in the homes of enslaved people, like under the floorboards. They were finding these blue beads, and nobody knows what they were for. I said, I know what they was for. I know exactly what they was for. They were for protection. And they were there for warding off evil spirits and evil intentions and bad energy. And I didn't know that that's what it was in the moment. But when I was done and I started stringing them into bracelets, I said, oh, okay. And me and my children wore them bracelets the whole summer. I still got one that I kept on the altar at the old house. I gotta go get it. But yeah. Stuff like that is what I'm saying. Don't deny yourself access to that. If it feels like something you need to be doing, 9 times out of 10 you need to be doing it. Especially if it has to do with expression.
No, that's real. That's
Yeah.
definitely real because there's definitely been times when I found myself doing stuff or writing stuff or I for me, I'll start to journal,
Hmm.
and as I'm journaling, certain things are coming up. That's I realize like this is not my thought. Somebody else, somebody in the ether, this they thought. You know,
Hmm.
I don't even talk like that. You know, like I know how to. I don't even talk like that. Like who the hell said that, right? Or I'll hear certain music, and I'm like, what is that? Or certain melodies, I'm like, and then my mom be like, oh, that was my father's favorite song, and I'm like, well, he humming it right now, cause how would I know that that was a man's favorite song? I ain't never met the man, and it's like,
Right.
I love my grandfather, but I feel like that is one of those things of just like, now they got all these words for epigenetics and all of this stuff. But for us, it's just ancestral memories.
Yeah.
It's just that when we are living and being open enough, because a part of it is being open and receptive and not, like you said, not shutting it down, not being like, why would I do that? That's stupid. Like just going with it. Like, oh, all right, roll it up. Okay, poke a hole. Okay, making beads. Okay, all right, we doing this. Okay, cool. You know, or when you got that taste for something that you don't eat that all the time, or you don't somebody want that, you
Yep.
be like, I got a taste for okra. You be like, do you? Like, yeah, I do. Like, okay,
Yep.
okra it is,
Yep.
and how being open in that way a lot is being receptive in that way is allowing ourselves to be open to the possibilities of these ancestral memories, these ancestral downloads, and
Yes.
this different form of communication. Like you said, where if we were going by a very white colonial,
Mhm.
context, it'd be like, you're schizophrenic, you're
Yep.
crazy,
Hmm. Yep.
you out of your damn mind. Look at me,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, no, like I do pray anytime somebody walks past me and I can see that they are clearly struggling with schizophrenia. I pray for their peace because I
Yeah.
know that they are in active communication with somebody
Thank you.
and they
Yes.
haven't been given the proper tools on how to ground or how to
Hmm.
separate or how to give boundaries, because like I said, I did find myself in the psych ward
Hmm.
and I ain't been back. But when I came back, the first thing I did was I went straight to my altar, cleaned my table, refreshed my glasses, put fresh flowers, and was recommitted myself to my spiritual practices. And that has been what's kept me this whole time. And I know that's, sounds irresponsible to say, but I don't take medication and I have not been back to the psych ward, right?
Right.
And that hasn't been easy, absolutely not. But
Right.
I do know that in having a respective place for everybody in this house, everybody got their respective
Yeah.
corners. It I am allowed to be me. They are them, and
Mhm.
I am me.
Yes. And the two don't need to come converging, fighting and fussing and getting into each other's ways. And I think, and it's not necessarily irresponsible of you to say that because you're giving your personal account, right? There are those of us who have real challenges, real traumas that have affected us so horribly that we need support. We need interventions. We have to have medication, right? That's
Right.
a reality for a lot of us,
Absolutely.
and so that's not to take away from anybody's experience or anybody's plight or the things that they have to deal with, right? But I have seen studies on how people with so-called schizophrenia, when they're given opportunities to commune with nature, right? When they're given space to walk and ground in the dirt and garden tools and seeds to occupy the spaces here with regimen and routine, that this can be effective. These are indigenous remedies. Sometimes people need something to do that's not going to crush them like capitalism does, We have to live in a society where we're forced to work to eat. We're forced to work to live. We're forced to work to survive. And some of us are not equipped for that. Some of us are not meant to work. We can't hold a job because holding a job is an oppression to the soul that a lot of us cannot handle, right? And so, it's important that, we hold space for ourselves to recognize that a lot of what we're calling mental illness is the result of being traumatized under capitalism, racism, white imperialism. I'll never call it supremacy because ain't nothing supreme about it. But white imperialism and oppression for sure is it will make any of us crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to do a word association game.
Okay, let's
Okay.
do it.
So I'm gonna say a word and you're gonna tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh God.
All
Okay.
right. It's fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
All
Okay.
right.
Okay, the first word is roots,
Cause.
bones,
Throw.
threshold,
Stop.
ink,
Indigo.
veil,
Thin.
flame,
Mm. Enemy.
clay,
Mm. Healing.
chain,
Break.
echo,
Mm. Memory.
and lastly, water.
Mm. Grandma. That was fun. I was worried I was gonna take it far left. I didn't know.
Oh God, you're so cute. I love it. She's like, oh, I don't know. Like, girl, it's a game. You can't mess up.
About that girl.
So, so how can we support you in your work? Okay, where can we find you? How can somebody send you $1, $2, $100? Where can we send you some money so you
Thank you.
can get Conjure this docu series? You
Mhm.
know, get it
Mhm.
edited, get it posted, get it screened where it needs to be in the respective places. How can we support you?
Well, right now I'm still working on my Indiegogo campaign. As soon as I have it completed, now that we've had this interview and you really, encouraged me and made me feel like I still got a voice and a standing and a place to make some noise, I'm gonna share it with you this week so we can put it in the episode. And yeah, if you want to reach out to me, you can use my email address, larishastone@gmail.com. Um, and you can find me on all the socials at the Nine Minds Radio Show. Um, pardon me, or freestyle underscore since underscore 1984.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, yes. So this was great. I'm so glad you came on. I'm so
Me
glad.
too.
This is going to be a good week. Like I said, sinners is at the top of everybody's mind still. So there's a lot of conversations happening around hoodoo, which I appreciate. Um, because people got to understand like hoodoo is what came from your blood, right? So like what your grandmother was doing ain't the same as what my grandmother was doing. There's a
Right.
common ancestor, there's a common thread there. However, everything is lineage based and it goes in your blood. So somebody's gonna do something that's slightly different and doesn't make what they're doing wrong. It's just you got to go what speaks to your blood because those ancestors are going to respond to that. Like
Mhm.
our ancestors ain't going to respond to what the people next door is doing because they don't know them people.
Right.
Like
Oh, and they didn't do that.
they
That's not
didn't
what.
do that, and that's
Right.
okay.
Yes,
And
and that's.
that's okay. It don't make what anybody's doing right or wrong. It's just it's like you said, how you tell your children, be yourself, and in
Mhm.
being yourself, that's how you're gonna truly attract and be able to identify the things that are for you as well.
Yeah.
As long as you're walking in your truth. So thank you so much for coming on. This has been the art of remembering with Rish De Terra, aka Larisha Stone, aka the Nine Minds Radio Show, aka the curator and the originator of the Annual Hoodoo Conference. My name is Nikki Buchanan. You've been listening to the How to Be Magical podcast. I'm the owner of Soul Things Botanica. You can find me everywhere on Soul Things BK. I'm on Substack. Substack is very lively. You gotta get on Substack, girl. I'm gonna send you some information. We're gonna get you on Substack because
I'm
I
gonna
feel
start.
like
I got a lot.
I feel like you need to be on Substack. That's
I,
where the party is happening these days. It's very lively over there. It's and it's full. It's I like Substack because they have longer form. You could do longer form content on there. You know, like how Facebook used to be. Like Facebook ain't what it used to be no more.
no, it ain't.
Game done changed up. You know, but I do think that Substack will be a great place for you to get people acquainted with what you're doing, because like I said, there's a lot of good minds on there. There's a lot of spiritualists on there. My Substack right now is for $8 a month. You can support How to Be Magical. I have all of my episodes there. We even do this episode is going to be up before it's aired, you know, so I have like a nice little area for the paid members and they could watch stuff ahead of time. So this stuff is going to be up days ahead of time and people could watch it and all of the good things. So that's head over to Substack, y'all. I'm also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Instagram, TikTok, the whole shebang. And this has been another episode of the Having Magical Podcast. Again, my name is Nikki Buchanan. I'm the owner of Soul Things Botanica. And as always, y'all, keep it black, keep it beautiful, and keep it magical. Stay safe, y'all. Peace.
Peace.